Councillor Maureen Chalmers, and Councillor Cowan is attending as a substitute. We have present Councillors Convery, Devlin, Fagan, Lockhart, Loudon, McLachlan, Robb and Ross. And I'll hand back to the Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I come now to item 1, which is declarations of interest? Can I ask if there are any declarations of interest? I have one, which is from Councillor Anderson.
It's just actually to have it on record that I'm sitting on the board, agenda item number 7, the routes to work south. But I feel as this is only for noting, I don't need to declare an interest or leave the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. The image on the screen here is a bit dark, and it's a bit distracting, but we'll persevere. Can I come to item 2, which are the minutes of the previous meeting on pages 3 to 6? Are there any questions on the minutes? I'm not seeing any questions on the minutes, so can we agree those as a correct record?
Agreed.
We're agreed. Can I come now to item 3, which is the first of our items for consideration. This is on the Connect Plan, a Q2 progress report, and Neil Reid is going to speak to this item. Neil.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this is the Q2 progress report on the Council Plan Connect. It covers the period April 24 to September 24, 6-month period. And it's a standard format that we bring frequently to the forum. As usual, we have a table at 4.4, which gives an explanation of the traffic light system that we use in the performance system to indicate the progress of our actions and our targets. And at 4.5, there is a summary of how the 61 measures and actions are progressing. So that shows that there are 44 of them, or 72%, which are blue or green, which indicates that they are complete or proceeding as we would expect. And there are 11 which are red or amber, that's 18%, which have slipped to some degree against expectations or against the target. And there's a further 6 which we don't have enough information at this point in time to make that determination, but we should be in a position at the end of the year. So the remainder of the report, as usual, goes through each of the outcomes in the Council Plan, gives a breakdown of the blue, greens, ambers and reds for each of those outcomes, and it lists some achievements that services have identified within the 6 months covered by this report. Essentially, that is the report. There is an appendix which contains the details of all of the 61 items with a bit of narrative explaining what's been happening with them. So the recommendations of the report are, firstly, to note the progress as indicated in the report, and to note the achievements that are listed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions on that report? Could you please indicate now? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions on the report, so can we agree the recommendations? Can we agree the report? Agreed. Can I come now to item 4, which is on our resource plans. These are the red and amber results at Q2. It's a follow-on from that report, and Tom Little is going to take us through this. Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. As you said, the report Neil just gave was an update on the 61 performance measures that we have nominated against the Council Plan Connect. But that is a subset of a total of 256 performance measures that apply across all of our resource plans. And what this report before you now does is it provides details of all the measures within that number which are showing as red or amber as at the end of Q2, the same period as the last report. So details of all those 8 reds and 15 ambers are provided in Appendix 1, and that includes information on any remedial actions that are being taken. In addition, the report provides a breakdown of the numbers in 2 tables. At 4.2, page 38 of your papers, the breakdown is by resource, while at 4.4, the breakdown is given by outcome or theme from the Council Plan Connect. You'll note there's been a slight decrease in the number of reds and amber measures reported in comparison to the previous year, always a good thing. I'll take you to the recommendations, and those are to note the detail of the red and amber results and that remedial action or mitigation that's been taken. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions in this report? Could you please indicate now? I'm not seeing any questions, so can we agree the report? Agreed. I'll come now to item 5, which is the local government benchmarking framework results for 22-23, and the action plan and update on that. And again, come back to Tom Little. Tom.
Yep, me again. Thanks, Chair. So this is actually a new report to the forum. It's the first time we've brought it, and it follows the report we brought to you in March of this year, when we provided what were initial details of the results of the local government benchmarking framework exercise for 22-23. Now, we've added this update to the reporting schedule for the forum to address some of the timing issues that we've always had with that report. Basically, when we bring the results to you in March, we do so to bring them as quickly as we can for scrutiny. But because of the early time of that, we tend to find that every year there's a sizable number of the performance measures where information is not yet available. And in fact, in March this year, when we brought you that report, 28 measures, or 27% of the measures, were not at that time available. So what this update does, it brings you a more complete picture. At this stage, we have only 9% of measures not showing at this time. And those results are summarised in the table at 4.2. Now, that shows a generally favourable picture than the March report we brought you. You'll see that in terms of improving performance, we're showing at 52% of measures, whereas declining performance compared with the previous year is 35% of measures. In terms of the Scottish average, results are better than 50% and worse than the Scottish average, 39%. So the full results across all the measures are given again in Appendix 1, and the recommendations are to note these latest updated results, which we'll bring you now every year, the narrative and actions around them, the fact that we will republish, if you like, our results on our own web pages, our performance pages, and also we'll update our LGBF dashboard, which we've brought to you previously. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Again, can I ask if there are any questions in this report? I don't see any questions, so can I bring us back to the recommendations and ask that we agree the report? Agreed. Agreed. I'll come now to item 6, which is an update on our transformational reviews, and Jackie Taylor is going to speak to this item. Jackie.
Thank you, Chair. This paper is providing an update on the cross-cutting reviews that forms part of our transformational change programme. Section 3 is a reminder. As part of our budget strategy, we highlighted the need for transformational change in order that we can help bridge our budget gap over the coming years, which has a target of over £70 million over the next 3 years. This change programme is intended to drive efficiencies and feed into our budget strategy and deliver savings in order to meet that budget gap. An initial paper was brought to this forum back in August, and this paper provides a further update on those cross-cutting reviews. So if I take you to section 4 on page 92, what is first covered at section 4.1 is that because of the timing of this report, our savings proposals have now been presented to the Executive Committee, and the outcome of some of these cross-cutting reviews features as part of that savings pack, and we've included those savings in Appendix 1 for your information. To take you through those cross-cutting reviews, at section 4.2 we pick up charging. The review of charging looks at all the charges that the Council makes. It looks at the basis for the charge, whether we recover costs or not, and also whether we have kept in line with inflation over recent years. It was identified that where an inflationary rise has been applied to our charges, it hasn't actually followed the level of UK inflation. Therefore, the proposal that is in the 2025-26 savings pack for consideration is that an inflationary increase of 14.4% is applied across all charges. That's not for charges that are statutorily set or that are covered by other reviews. We're also including an in-year inflation uplift as well. That will generate £190,000 if accepted. In addition to that, we're proposing an increase on parking tariffs and season tickets, and again, that would generate £185,000. So in total, for the charging review, the saving is totalling £375,000. Procurement's picked up at section 4.4. That review focuses on our procurement practices across the council and looks to identify savings through demand management opportunities, which is maybe buying less or not at all, looking at alternative product specifications and also any different routes to market. We've identified 10 opportunities to save money and they total £955,000 and they are listed there at table 1 for you. Procurement review is an ongoing review that we will continue to look to make savings going forward. That also applies to the next review, which is at 4.6, which is overtime. This is us looking at where we're incurring overtime and how we can look to reduce that. Resources have been working to prepare action plans to look at reducing that level of overtime. And for 25-26, we're proposing that we can reduce our spend by £364,000. At section 4.9, we're picking up a review of management structures, and this is about us looking at our organisational structure models and seeing how they align to the structures that were agreed previously as our target operating models. Our 25-26 proposed savings pack includes a proposal to look at our span of controls and increase them to more aligned with our operational target models, and that will generate a saving of £1 million. As I say, all of these savings are now identified within our savings pack that's been shared with the Executive Committee and are detailed in Appendix 1 for you. Section 4.11 picks up our loans fund. Again, that features as part of our budget paper that has been taken to Executive. This is where we're looking at our additional voluntary repayments of debt that we're currently making and also new accounting standards around leases. That review has concluded and a proposal to use £6.6 million of the outcome of that review to reduce our budget gap has been made. Further annual savings will also be available. Now, as well as the initial tranche of reviews that we've covered here and within the savings pack, there are other cross-cutting reviews that will progress into future years, but we don't expect to have any impact into 25-26, and they're covered from section 4.14 onwards. So firstly, fleet. Terms of reference for this review was presented to the last forum in August, and work's continuing through the winter period to look at right-sizing the fleet for the council. At section 4.15, we're picking up digital transformation, and this is about a review of how we use technology. It'll impact on all other reviews and also focus on how the council and its customers interact. 3 key areas are being considered, and they're bulleted there at 4.15 for you. We've included in the appendix a terms of reference for this review. Now, closely linked to that, at 4.18, we're picking up a review of customer engagement. Again, a terms of reference has been prepared and is included at Appendix 3 for your information. This is us looking to set the development of a customer engagement strategy and look at opportunities for service improvement, cycle time reduction and cost savings. At 4.20, I'm picking up the review of property and estate. Again, this was picked up at the last meeting and it's linked to previous reports that we've made on this. We will continue to report progress in this forum. There's 2 cross-cutting reviews that haven't yet commenced, and they're detailed there at 4.23 and 4.24, and that's around in-house and procured services and depot rationalisation. Alongside all of these cross-cutting reviews, resources are also continuing to consider their own service areas to inform savings for the coming years. I'll take you back to the recommendations. We're asking that the update around these transformational reviews be noted. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I would make the point that some of the output of this reviews councillors will see in the budget papers that you've been considering elsewhere. The paper in front of you is simply a paper for noting. Can also highlight that if for councillors who have read the external auditor's report that will be going to the council tomorrow, you'll see that the transformational reviews are highlighted in that report, and I think regarded by auditors as a positive development. And I would also just highlight from my own point of view that I'm encouraged to see, I think as I've said before in this forum, 4.9, the review of management structures, and that in 4.23 we're going to see the review of our procured services, and we'll look at opportunities and further opportunities for in-housing to save money and aligned with our community wealth building objectives. Are there any questions? And if there are, could you please indicate now, and I will come in the first instance to Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Chair. It's just on the overtime savings. Are these permanent savings or are these one-year savings only? And I'm looking at community and enterprise, 125,000. My memory serves me right, they have taken something like £140,000 from the reserves to reduce the overtime. So I'm just wondering, are these savings at community and enterprise going to be each year, or as I say, is it just going to be a one-off?
Thanks for your question. All of the savings on overtime we expect to be permanent. So we're looking to reduce down the amount we spend every year on overtime, and this amount of 364,000 across all resources is a step towards that. We will continue to look at the rest of the overtime that we're spending to make sure that we understand if there's other, maybe more efficient ways that we can deal with that requirement, be it through employment of more staff and avoiding paying premium overtime. But we do expect these to be permanent, yeah.
Okay, could I come to Councillor Lockhart?
Thank you, Chair. Jackie, just it's a sort of general question. Even I, at my age, am getting more used to using AI. And I find it fascinating in terms of the time savings, reports, summaries, all sorts of things. And I'm just wondering where the council sits now. I mean, we are talking about reductions of all shapes and sizes. And when I look at the amount of time AI saves me for work, I'm just wondering what the council is doing with regard to implementing or taking on board AI as a means of cost reduction.
Thanks for your question, Councillor Lockhart. There are already many places that the council is using AI. I've got Colin sitting beside me, and I know that we do adopt better and more technology to look at roads, for example, and roads repair. So there are areas of AI that we are already looking at. The terms of reference that we've included in this pack around digital transformation will pick up on where we can look to technology to better improve the way of working. But there are obviously processes and thoughts to go through before we just jump in and automatically adopt all forms of AI. There's making sure that we've got correct data and the outputs from artificial intelligence are understood and appropriate before we adopt them without due consideration. So absolutely, as part of our digital transformation review, that will be part of our considerations.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Okay, thank you. And I have a final question from Councillor Loudon.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for the report, Jackie. My question was about one of the items listed on the procurement savings on table 4.4. It's just to check my understanding of that. Parent council insurance. So it's my understanding that we've got a sort of umbrella policy as a local authority just now, which covers all parent councils, so they don't need to worry about organising their own. Are we just looking at like a change of provider here to hopefully save some money? And if that's the case, I take it the policy that's going to cover parent councils is going to offer a sort of similar level of cover for public liability events, fraud cover, that kind of thing, or are parent councils going to see any changes that could affect their operations for changing policy or provider?
Thank you. I've got Craig here if I have to rely on him for any of the detail. But my understanding is this is an insurance policy that as a council we don't have to provide. Now the opportunity for insurance for parent councils is still there, but it just wouldn't be through this central provision. So that 14,000 would be a saving to the council, and we can help parent councils if they wish to carry on taking insurance, how they can go about that.
Sorry, can I just have a bit of clarity in that, Chair?
Yep, sure.
So does that mean parent councils are currently insured by a council-wide policy, and that this proposal is to remove that, which could then potentially incur costs for individual parent councils?
That's my understanding. However, we will work with, I believe some parent councils already have their own provision. This isn't part of our overall council insurance policy. It's quite a specific thing, and we will be working with parent councils to ensure that if they're looking for their own provision, we can direct them in appropriate places.
Okay. I think, Chair, with your permission, it would be quite useful to get a bit more information on that, maybe to a further meeting or at the budget, because I know it's certainly something that as local members we're going to be asked about.
Yeah, I think that's something that's included within the budget packs, unless somebody wants to correct me on that, so we could pick that up as part of the budget process. Jackie?
Absolutely, I can take that as a question as part of the budget process and make sure that's circulated.
Great, thanks very much.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for those questions. The report is just for noting, so can I ask we agree to note the report? And I come now to item 7, which is a review of Routes to Work South, and Alison Brown is going to speak to this report. Alison.
Thank you, Chair. The report sets out the terms of reference for a review of Routes to Work South. Established in 2001, Routes to Work South is a company limited by guarantee and a registered charity that delivers employability programmes on behalf of the council. The Routes to Work South has 6 directors on the board, including Councillor Anderson, as he said, and Councillor McClimate. Its main office is in Cambuslang, with services also provided in Lanark and East Kilbride. As of April this year, the service had a team of 51 staff. Routes to Work South activity is delivered via a TECL contract as set out in paragraph 4.1. The contract value is £2.3 million for 24-25, which comprises UK Shared Prosperity Funding, Scottish Government No One Left Behind funding and SSE Sustainable Development Fund monies. The delivery programme is set out in section 5.1, and in 23-24, Routes to Work engaged with 1,300 participants, with 580 people progressing to employment. The rationale for the review is set out in section 6, which highlights that following a review in 22-23, the employability service now sits within Community and Enterprise Resources. This move has reduced duplication and achieved savings. However, elements of duplication to a degree remain between the Council and Routes to Work South. A review of Routes to Work South will provide an opportunity to review the delivery models, meet the needs of participants and ensure that the activity is in line with current policies. The review options are set out in section 7, and consideration will also be given to likely funding arrangements going forward, including the 40% reduction in the Shared Prosperity Fund for 25-26, which will undoubtedly impact on delivery of programmes. The terms of reference is included in the appendix, and I'd ask the forum to note the report and the terms of reference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions? Can I come to Councillor Anderson?
Right, Chair. I think the Council was right to review these REOs, and not just this one, but other ones they have. But I don't see there being any cost saving to the Council with this one in particular, because what's happening is we're getting the money from the Scottish Government and the UK Government, and then they're doing the work. So the only saving I could see then would be if the Council reduced its own staff, because Routes to Work South staff is obviously paid from this grant funding. So I don't really see there being any financial saving unless somebody can tell me something different. And I'm just wondering, I mean, this area of unemployment, certainly out there, is overcrowded with the amount of different organisations that's offering some sort of thing. This is quite different from the others. I'm just wondering where we're going with this, on this, because there's also the risk that if the Council then takes it over and the funding ceases, because there's never a guarantee of funding from any government, then the Council's left with the liability of these 55 or 51, I think it was you said, staff. Thanks.
Alison?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Anderson. Yes, I agree with all that you said there. The funding is routed through the Council to Routes to Work South. So there is limited opportunities for real savings to the council. That said, we will look at the structures within both the council and Routes to Work South. I think the principal area is around duplication of activity and ensuring that we are aligning programmes for the needs of the participants and not duplicating across the two services. I think it is quite a crowded area of activity, and the programmes themselves are quite crowded, and I think there could potentially be better alignment of programmes. So all that you said there will be part of that review. You're absolutely right. If there was a view taken that the service should revert to come into the council, there is a risk to the council of the post not being funded at some point in the future. So all of that will need to be considered in the round, and look at all the opportunities and the risks around that.
John?
Yeah, so there's a possibility, albeit small, that where the work is duplicated, Routes to Work South might be getting some of the work the council's doing or some of the staff, rather than incorporating the whole of Routes to Work South into the council. It might be a case of, well, the two of them are doing the same, but in balance we'll transfer some of the work that the council's doing over to Routes to Work South.
Yeah, one scenario might be that the council stops a particular programme and all of that is delivered by Routes to Work South, and vice versa, Routes to Work South stop doing a particular area and all of that's delivered by the council, and it's just getting that clear delineation. I think that's where we're likely to see potential review going.
Okay. I would perhaps just say, I think on Friday morning, I was down in East Kilbride for a session with the railway and Network Rail, and actually we had a very good example of how Routes to Work have fed into a project, how a training scheme has been developed, and young people coming out of that have then had the opportunity to interview with basically businesses in the supply chain for the railway. So it is, I agree, it can be a crowded landscape, but when we get it working right, it can make an enormous difference to people. Okay, can I bring us back to the recommendations, and can I ask that we agree to note the report?
Agreed.
Can I now bring us on to item 8, which is on agile working guidance, and can I ask Jackie Taylor to speak to this item? Jackie?
Thank you, Chair. This paper provides the forum with terms of reference for a review of agile working guidance. I've got Michelle Milne here with me today. She can pick up any questions that we have in relation to this. And the next paper, which is on corporate standards, which is closely linked to this paper. Now, since 2020, we have seen a change in how our officers work, and that's resulted in a range of flexible and agile working arrangements across the council. As we've been working like this for over 3 years, it's now appropriate to review the working arrangements they have in place and make sure that we have guidance to oversee that. So as I say, a terms of reference is attached at Appendix 1 for this work around preparing guidance around agile working. I've noted at section 4.1 that a key consideration has to be that service users and customers continue to have full access to council personnel and services regardless of any working arrangements. As I say, section 4.2 I mentioned earlier, alongside this review of agile working is a review of corporate standards, which I'll cover in a second. Now, to support the review of agile working, we will be looking at benchmarking to see what other councils do, and also carrying out surveys to ascertain a correct and accurate position on the current arrangements that are in place across the council. So in terms of recommendations, we're asking that the contents of this report is noted, and also that the terms of reference which attached at Appendix 1 be noted. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions in this paper? And can I come to Councillor Loudon?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks very much for the report. I thought this was quite interesting. So obviously, agile working's been in place since 2021, and then by the time this review progresses, that's going to be quite a good few years that people have been working this way. And I I had it in my head that, you know, people's personal circumstances could have changed quite a lot from them, depending on their circumstances at home, their own health or perhaps family circumstances. I just wondered, because it wasn't in the implications section, if this review is going to bring about any change in policy or any change in how people are working at the moment and managing to work under the arrangements that are currently in place. Is there not a potential impact for people who might then find it difficult to do their job or impossible to do their job if some of the sort of rights they've got just now were taken away? I know there wasn't an impact assessment, or the report stated we didn't need an impact assessment just now. I just wondered if this is something that you anticipated maybe coming out in the review, the sort of hidden benefits that it's having for people in terms of accessibility and things that we might not actually be aware of, but they are having a positive benefit on people's ability to work just now.
In terms of an impact assessment, absolutely, as we go through the review and identify any recommendations, we will look at the requirement to do an integrated impact assessment to make sure that we are aware and picking up any maybe intended or unintended consequences of this. And you're correct, people's working arrangements have changed in many different ways. And again, it's important that we do appreciate as we go through this review what those impacts are, what the contractual relationship is with our employees and our non-contractual relationship as well, to make sure that we're picking up any implications of that, and we'll look to ensure that that's reported back as part of the outcomes.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask if there are any other questions? And if there are not, can I come back to the report and ask that we agree to note the report? Agreed. And then I will come to item 9, which is the linked paper on corporate standards, and I'll come back to you, Jackie.
Thank you very much. So this is now picking up corporate standards. We're reporting here that the last time our corporate standards were published was in 2012. They pick up areas around the Council's identity, conduct, communication and customer care. As we've reported as part of our last paper, how the Council delivers its services has changed since 2012 and also since 2020. So it's important that we look to make sure that our corporate standards are appropriate, and again, that access to services is not impacted as a result of any of the changes that we've talked about this morning. Again, in terms of reference is attached to Appendix 1 for your information. Section 5 summarised what we intend to do around this review. In terms of the corporate standards, we have 2 stages that's recommended. Stage 1, we've actually adopted already. That's about communication being issued to employees and managers around those key areas that we've bulleted there. So it's around telephone communication standards, around email and email signatures, around making sure that out-of-office assistants are understood and consistent, and also the requirement to review information that is held on our external and internal websites to make sure that they are accurate. Stage 2 will include a full review of our corporate standards handbook and supporting documentation, and we'll look to do that in the first quarter of 2025. So again, we're asking that the review process and the terms of reference are noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions? I don't see any. I think for me, I would just emphasise the point that is in the report about the services reviewing the information they place online. We've got to make sure that if more is done online, that people know where to go and that the website is accessible. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so can I bring us back to the recommendations? Can we agree to note the recommendations? Indeed. There are no items of urgent business, so can I thank you for your attendance and close the meeting. Thank you.